look, I suddenly thought of an appropriate poetic tribute to give you.
Oh.
Because there was somebody called the Bush Heritage Man, who was your partner, Rick Farley, who passed away about 11 years ago. And the last stanza of a poetic tribute to him said, "Happiness comes tomorrow if you fought well today. Honour my legacy by supporting the champion whom I have left behind."
Oh.
So that's now, I'm just going to throw a few poems around because because the English poet Shelley, a great champion of non-violence, I probably don't need that, said that poets were the unacknowledged legislators of the world. In other words, the value of poetry was that it had to find dimensions that you couldn't achieve through prose. I'm going to start off with a poem about injustice, and then we'll move to a couple of poems which are much more optimistic. This first one is about an issue that concerns me greatly. It's about Palestine. It's about the first time I went to the occupied territories. It's called Occupied Territories. I'm hopeless with a camera. I seldom take one with me, so I use poetry instead. This is a picture of the occupied territories. Walls rise in the mind's eye, but are difficult to climb. Liberty lies within curfews, but contains no right to be free. Crying is unwise, because nothing will absorb the tears. Humour lies infertile, unless bastardry is the court jester. Refugees are preparing a journey, but towards a mirage. Humiliation is a daily diet which nurtures no one. Dependency is a characteristic which gains no pride in a country where the sun gives neither shelter nor shadow, burns the veiled and the bareheaded, and is still lighting the fuses of history in compliance with rituals that have identified only an identity for the dead. Well, that was a picture of the occupied territories for me the first time I went. Now I want to move to a suburb that's not very far from here. Some of you live there. It's a proud suburb which 10 years ago created a twinning arrangement with the little town of Bethlehem. It was subsequently vilified, shamefully, because it supported one of the most important international movements for justice around the world, called the Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions Movement. So this is a tribute to Marrickville. It's called From Marrickville to Bethlehem. This twinning nurtures sanity in opposition to mayhem, a gesture for humanity for little town of Bethlehem. Once holy place of vestments, of shepherds' lands and picnic banks, now strangled by the settlements, sustained by mercenaries and tanks. For human rights, please stand in droves and find the courage to be tall against the theft of olive groves, against that sacrilegious wall which humiliates and separates and treats the people as a stone. But, and I've missed out on this, and treats the people as a stone, bludgeoned by the wedge of fear. But active twinning nullifies that military monologue that force of arms disqualifies the precious means of dialogue. And so the council sees a prize for stretching out and finding will to talk, discuss, not demonize. Congratulations, Marrickville. Now I want to give you really what is the most, for me, the most significant poem ever written about justice. It wasn't written by Patrick Dodson or Mick Dodson. It was written by Bertolt Brecht, the German poet and playwright, who challenged totalitarianism and fascism. It's called the bread of the people. Justice is the bread of the people. Sometimes it is plentiful, sometimes it is scarce. Sometimes it tastes good, sometimes it tastes bad. When it is scarce, there is hunger. When it tastes bad, there is discontent. Throw away the bad justice, the justice without flavour, with a grey crust. The stale justice which comes too late. Just as daily bread is necessary, so is daily justice. It is even necessary several times a day. Since the bread of justice, friends, is so important, who shall bake it? The bread of justice must be baked by all of the people, plentiful, wholesome, daily. Now I'm going to finish up because I should be reminded this is about peace, not just a piece of poetry. Probably the most important poem about peace was written, in my view, and should be studied by every student who does peace studies in this or any other university. It's called Making Peace by the New York poet Denise Levertov. Something like 20 years ago, one of the first courses introduced in peace and conflict studies here was called Passion, Peace and Poetry. And you wouldn't believe it, but the faculty asked me to take the word passion out of the title because they thought it was insufficiently academic. Isn't that splendid? She told us, this is a lead-in, she told us that peace was an energy field more intense than war, that it was a presence, that a line of peace might appear in your lives if you reconstructed the sentence your lives are making. Revoked your affirmation of profit and power, questioned your needs and allowed long pauses before you have the chips, was what she wrote. So this is a poem. It's called Arctic Dawn. I wrote it on an island in the Arctic Circle. The cues are taken from Denise Levertov. It's got two themes. One is about the points that Linda made, that you can't separate peace and justice. And the other, which is something I learned while being supervised by Linda for 6 years on the Reconciliation Committee, and I desperately tried to be obedient.
You were very good.
It's about the relationship between your health and the health of the environment. The lesson that Indigenous people taught us, that it must be absurd if you think you can separate that phenomenon. So here's Arctic Dawn. Early morning across a wilderness, in the calm of the completely still, a fjord surrenders and a path unwinds. Naked in the sunbeam light, island beaches give me space while time is on my side and even the gulls are thinking. Like haughty chaperones, the well-dressed mountains stare, and in scattered homes a sturdy people sleep. As honey unfolds over bread, silence slips across the surface and promises the possibility of peace. That's enough for me.